Hello, everybody. Brian Tonsoni, live from Delphi, Indiana, at the basement of my house, right across from Delphi High School in my podcast studio. We're here bringing you Bracket Babblings from Delphi Bracketology. We have some special guests with us tonight. We'll be on for a half an hour, and then you can go watch Purdue, Michigan State in a big Big Ten matchup on ESPN later today. I have with me our junior, Daniel Jake. So say hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Daniel does a good job for us. And then we have a veteran, former player of mine, Tanner Kripe, a Delphi graduate, Hanover College graduate. I don't even know where you're working, but you're working somewhere in Indianapolis. But he's not going to talk work tonight. He's going to talk NCAA basketball. Hi, Tanner. Thanks for joining.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. Here we go with our bracket babbling for February 8th. Our number one seeds. Number one seed, Kansas. Also, number one seed, Oklahoma, Villanova, and we have Oregon as the fourth number one, which is probably up for some debate. The number two seeds, North Carolina, Virginia, Xavier, and Iowa. Those are our top 8 seeds, if you would, 1 through 8, and they fit the lines of the number one seeds and the number 2 seeds. I think you'll generally see those 8 fighting it out, maybe the top 7 minus Virginia. And as we go into our questions later, there might be some teams sitting at a current 3 or 4 with a good run of 7, 8 victories might make it into those top seeds. So we'll go to you, Daniel, first. What are your thoughts about those top seeds? And we know we have the Oregon-Iowa situation. What do you think about seeds 1 and 2?
First thing, February 9th, not February 8th. I'll catch you here.
Thank you. I'm used to doing this on Monday. My bad.
But yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, Kansas, Villanova, I all believe should be ones. I said last week Oregon could possibly come up to be a 1 seed. They're there this week. I don't have any disagreement with that. I could see Virginia coming up to a 1. They've been playing really well as of late. I think it was Wake Forest they beat on that bank shot buzzer beater 3. I mean, they've been hot. Iowa and Xavier, 2 teams that could battle it out for that last 1 seed. North Carolina even. I mean, I don't have any complaints, honestly, with the top 8 teams here.
All right, let's go to Tanner. As you look at our bracket with the 1 and 2 seeds, what kind of things are you thinking about with the way we have them?
Really what I see is, we have Oregon as the number 1 seed, putting, Iowa, and I even kind of like Xavier potentially sliding into that number 1 seed, even if they can continue to, play really well in the conference that they're in. Maryland's kind of sitting on the outside right now, and as a 3, they could, with the rest of the Big Ten schedule that they may have, some tough road games coming up, but a few good wins there on the road. I think they could slide into a 2 seed and maybe even slide into a 1 seed depending on how those top 7 play out.
Okay, yeah, the 1-2 seeds are pretty solid, but what we've seen lately is a team like North Carolina loses 2 on the road. And on the road in conference play is so tough. So do you drop North Carolina? We did in comparison. Oklahoma, thank goodness, won last night, although I like Texas. But they would have lost 2 games. So it gets really crazy when you start dropping teams because of their most recent events. But when you look at the whole body of work, who they've beaten and who they've played, I think we have a pretty good top 4 seeds. And if I'm looking back on it now, maybe Iowa would slip in there somewhere. But we have good 6 or 7 teams in that area. Let's go to our 3 and 5 seeds. And Tanner, you started it a little bit, and I'll start back with you. Teams that are in our 3, 4, and 5 that could go up to a 1 or 2. You mentioned Maryland. Do you see any other teams at this time?
I really like Bob Huggins' West Virginia team. They've kind of, just the way they play defense, they're kind of in your face. I mean, just a typical Bob Huggins West Virginia team, really, these last few years. Pretty scrappy. They have some tough games coming up, but like I said, if they can win some of those games, they can move up a little bit in my eyes.
Very good. Daniel, what team in the 3, 4, 5 range with a good run could maybe get a 1 or a 2 seed?
You mentioned them earlier. They're playing tonight at Purdue. I think Michigan State could go on a good run. They have Denzel Valentine back. They lost a couple games without him. I think Tom Izzo has a good squad up in East Lansing, and I mean, a couple games here and there, they can. I think they can get up to a 2 seed, possibly even slide into that last 1 seed.
Yeah, and I like both Big Ten teams. Tanner mentioned Maryland, and you mentioned Michigan State. I think those are the teams in the Big Ten that have a chance to get up in that 1 and 2 seed line, but they beat up on each other. You know, you could see a good team in the Big Ten losing 2 or 3 more games just because of schedule strength, and that goes for the ACC as well. For me, you guys picked some of the top ones. I'll go. I like Texas. I don't see them getting all the way up to a 1 and 2 because of their non-conference and some of their issues earlier in the season, but they have played a lot of good teams in that Big 12. And Daniel, you're a big fan of the Big 12. And they lost just on a buzzer beater by probably the best player in college basketball, Buddy Hield, last night. If anyone moves up, we have them as a 5. They probably could move up to a 4 or 3. I don't know if they have enough power to get up to a 1 or a 2. However, they play 3 more ranked opponents in their next 3 games. You win all 3, and it's going to force people who do what we do, bracketology, to move people up. So there's always a chance. The interesting thing, Tanner, and we've been sharing with our listeners, is that these winning a game on Tuesday night doesn't automatically move Michigan State up to a 2 line. Or if Purdue wins, they go from their 6 to a 5 or to a 4. You got to compare it to what other teams are doing. And that's probably been the biggest point that we've learned, is you can't just take a result on Monday night and Tuesday night and then go changing the bracket. You have to look at all of them. At this time, I'd like to welcome our other junior, Cole Rickles. Cole, hello, everybody. We're minus your sound right now, Cole. I'm still not hearing you. We'll come back to you in just a second. So there's a potential. I think the number 1 and 2 seeds are relatively locked in 8 or 9 teams. I would maybe throw Maryland in there with a chance to move up, and I don't think you're going to see much movement in the month that is to come. So let's do this. Let's look at our Big Ten teams. Currently, I believe we have 6 teams in the conference. Let's analyze where they're at and where they may go in the future as far as seed lines, and because there's a lot of interest here locally. Tanner, we'll start with your Boilers. We currently have them as a 6. I think that's the highest they've been. They just need to get a quality win maybe to move up, but I don't see them, unless they really falter here, dropping down much lower. What do you see about your Boilers?
I mean, if anything, I kind of have them kind of even across the board. They do have a pretty tough end of the schedule coming up. I know we got them as a 6 seed right now. They could falter, to a little bit of a 7, but I think they're in that 6-7 range right now, unless they take a bad loss against at Nebraska or at home to Northwestern would be that could maybe put them in that 8 seed, maybe even a 9 seed, kind of depending on the end of the season. It's going to be pretty crucial for the Boilermakers. They have a huge home game tonight here at 7. But yeah, I think right now we're going to keep them probably in that 6-7 ballpark, and just kind of we'll go week by week.
And as we get done here at 7 o'clock, they could very easily defeat Michigan State at home, and then that makes them a pretty strong 6, if not in question to compare to the other teams in that 5 or 6 range. But I think you have a chance with your Boilers to get up to a 4 with an outstanding run here. When you beat good teams, you move up. And I think you'll see your Boilers anywhere from 3 to 7 come tourney time. Daniel, let's go to you. We've already talked Maryland and Michigan State. Let's talk Iowa. Daniel?
Iowa, I mean, maybe one of the most underrated teams in the Big Ten. Jared Utoff could be a potential player of the year. I think, for the Big Ten at least. They're just a fundamentally sound team. They don't do anything flashy. They're fundamentally sound. They win games. They do what they're supposed to do. and I think if they just keep doing what they're doing, they're just going to keep winning games.
Iowa come out of nowhere, and you watch them, and they're just really, really solid. I mean, they have people who, at the forward spots who can score. They have guards who can score. Their center pokes people in the eyes and is efficient in doing that. So, I think they're going to be hard to beat. I'm not looking forward to Thursday night from an IU fan's perspective because I just think it's a horrible matchup for a lot of teams in the Big Ten. Cole, you back here?
Nope.
All right, keep trying. We'll come back to you. We won't give up on you.
I think the funny.
Go ahead, Tanner.
I think the interesting thing with Iowa is just the matchups they present. I mean, you got Dom Ewell coming in playing the 5, and he's shooting like 40% from 3 right now. And I mean, it draws the bigs away from the basket, and you see, Jock Clemens and Utah being able to take advantage of posting up smaller guys, taking away the shot blocking presence around the basket, and their defense is just really phenomenal. Utah might be the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year with his length and everything that he presents.
I agree. I think their 3-4 matchups are hard. They can go outside the 3, they can drive, they can post up, and you bring your backup center in, and he hits 40%. Yeah, they're just solid, and I think they have to be the favorite for the Big Ten. Let's see here. Cole, you good to go?
Can you hear me?
Ah, we got you.
Oh, finally.
Hey, give us your thoughts on the Big Ten. We've been talking a little bit of Purdue, a little bit of Iowa, Maryland, Michigan State early on. What do you think are the teams that are going to do the most damage from the Big Ten in the tournament?
From the Big Ten?
Yep.
I see Maryland. Honestly, I have them in my mind moving up from a 3, maybe to a 2, even to a 1, and moving Kansas down because Maryland is doing some damage right now. Purdue is ranked pretty well at a 6 seed, I would say. IU at an 8. I don't see Michigan doing that well. I mean, they're 16-7. It's not that something like that. It's not that impressive. But I'd say Maryland would be my top pick for the Big 10.
I'll talk about my Hoosiers a little bit. I'm worried. I think Thursday against Iowa and then on the road Sunday at Michigan State is going to tell you a whole lot. If they don't win one of those games, they could be in a free fall, which has been typical in the last few years. And they could play well and get beat is the scary thing because those teams are playing very well. I think Indiana offensively is fantastic. I think they struggle defensively at the 3 or 4. That's why I think they're going to struggle Thursday night. Hartman and I would be nice to Troy Williams, but I just don't know how they're going to match up on that. They're going to have to outscore Iowa, but I think Indiana's somewhat safe unless they lose out because the bubble. When we look at the bubble, there are teams. Clemson at 14-10 that is in our bracket. They lost last night. We might need to drop them, but some of these teams that are the last 4 in or even the last 8 in have 8, 9, 10 losses. And if Indiana loses out, they would have 8 or 9 losses. So I feel comfortable that they'll be in the tourney, but I think honestly we're seeing IU at a 7, 8, or 9 seed unless they can pull some upsets here on some top quality. I think the highest they ever could get is up to a 5. I don't see them getting any higher than that. Let's talk Michigan real quick. We'll go around the table. Your thoughts on Michigan. We'll go back to Cole first. Do you think Michigan, we dropped them down quite a bit after 2 home losses to 2 good teams, but nonetheless 2 losses. Do you think they are going to right the ship and be able to stay in the tournament? How high can they go, or are they going to drop out? Cole, what do you think?
I think it's a very real possibility that they drop out. I mean, they're 2-6 versus top 50 teams, 2-1 versus 50 to 100. They're 16-7 and 9-3 in their conference, and with these top 50 losses, it makes them very unappealing to even stay in the bracket. I mean, I think they've showed what they can do against those really good teams, and I don't think it's going to keep them in the bracket whatsoever.
Daniel, your thoughts on Michigan?
I think they drop as well. They have a non-conference strength of schedule of 126. I don't find them appealing to stay in. I think they drop.
Okay, Tanner, your thoughts on Michigan? Do Do they right the ship and get in the tournament, or are they going to keep sliding?
For me, it comes down to the big question: if and when Karius LeVert's coming back.
True.
Today they came out and said he practiced for an hour, I believe. This is his first time. That was his longest extended workout that he's had. I hope he doesn't come back and play Saturday against Purdue. But if he could come back, they're a totally different ball team with LeVert at the helm there. But as of right now, they're just not playing real well in my mind. I think they're going to drop out. If they get LeVert back, it could take a game or two for him to get his legs underneath him. So I'm going to say they're probably going to fall out.
I think Michigan will. I think Michigan will right the ship a little bit, especially if they get LeVert back, and they'll be in the 8, 9, 10 range when they come. I think the Big Ten gets some respect. I think we're going to see 6 teams in the tournament. I know they don't look at conference alignment and give an automatic number, but I think the Big Ten gets some respect, and I think Michigan will win a couple that'll help them get in. We have 2 teams in the Big Ten, since we're talking Big Ten, that are on the bubble. Some people have Wisconsin in. We do not have Wisconsin in. Ohio State at 14-10 should be mentioned because other 14-10 teams like Clemson are also being mentioned. So let's go around the table. I'll go to we'll talk Ohio State or Wisconsin, whatever you want to talk about. I'll start with Daniel since he is Ohio State Buckeye fan. What do you think about the chances of your Buckeyes getting back into the tournament field here in the next month?
Compared to Wisconsin, between those teams, I'd say that they have a slim chance. They lost at home to UT Arlington. I didn't even know that was really a school until they lost to them. They lost to Louisiana Tech. They've lost to Memphis. Reasonable win is against they got blown out by Maryland and IU, both. Both on the road. Compared to Wisconsin, Wisconsin has a strength of schedule of 8, and Ohio State has 54. I think Wisconsin would get the nod here. Wisconsin's a pretty solid team. Nigel Hayes. I just find it hard to beat Wisconsin at the Kohl Center, where you need to win at home, and I think Wisconsin gets the nod.
Cole, what do you think between Wisconsin and Ohio State, 2 teams that are on the bubble? Do either of them get in, or what do you think?
In my opinion, I don't think either of them get in, really. If we're just looking at their standings, we have Wisconsin 14-9. I mean, they're 3-3 against top 50 teams, which is, mediocre. I don't think it's anything worth a bracket spot. I mean, I'm not saying they're not a good team, but I don't think they're ready for the bracket with just their standings, both Wisconsin and Ohio State. I think there's better teams to replace them.
Tanner, your thoughts? Between Ohio State and Michigan, do we have a chance of getting a 7th team in from the Big Ten?
If it's gonna be Wisconsin. I'm really gonna watch this Saturday. They're at Maryland. Obviously, I don't think Maryland's lost a Big Ten home game since they've joined the conference. Wisconsin has won over their last 5. They're a different ball team since I believe when Purdue played them early in January. I watched them the Ohio State game last week. They're finding ways to win, and at this point in the season, that's kind of what matters. So I think they could squeak in if they have a good showing the rest of the campaign.
I would say Wisconsin too. And here's the interesting thing for our panel and for our listeners and our watchers. We look at the data that we get from WarrenNolan.com, and we look at top 50 wins, and the committee looks even deeper at that, and they look at injuries. Wisconsin had a coaching change in December, and they struggled at the first part of the year with losing Kaminsky and all of those the solid guys that went to 2 Final Fours. And then as of late, under Greg Gard, they are playing a lot better basketball. They're going to have to win a game like at Maryland or a couple in their tough schedule. They have a really tough schedule, but I think their strength of schedule, I think they might sneak into a play-in game. and other teams for us to talk about down the road, maybe in a different week. A team like LSU had some ineligible players I'm reading this week, or some players that were injured that came back, and since then they're 11-3. How much weight does the committee look at, their overall record versus 11-3 with everyone back? A case of Michigan, if Levert comes back and they go on 5-1 or 4-2, do you dismiss some of those losses in there? You do not do that with Indiana because Blackman's out for the rest of the year, and the tournament team you're going to get is the tournament team without Blackman. So some injuries you count, and some injuries you do not. But I think Wisconsin might fall in that category a little bit because of the coaching change and how they've done recently. And I would look for a Michigan, Ohio State, or Wisconsin to make a run in the Big Ten tourney. And then come Saturday or Sunday, the committee is going to have to say, whoa, this team just won 2 or 3 and got in the championship game. Do we throw them in? That might be a nightmare for a committee sitting there on Sunday with an Ohio State in the championship game or Wisconsin in the championship game. What do you do? And then compared to other things. Okay, we have a few minutes left here. Let's get to our fourth and final question for the panel. What team besides your favorite team will you be looking at these next 4 weeks as far as seeding? Give me a couple teams that you really like to watch or are rooting for, not in the same interest of your own team, but that you kind of like that is in our bracket. We'll go with you, Cole.
Well, this whole year I've been really rooting for Louisville, but not anymore.
No, cross them off.
Yeah, they really disappointed me there. So one team I really enjoy watching is Texas. I mean, we have them ranked as a 5 seed.
Cole, I'm going to interrupt you, and probably not school appropriate, but they had a different version of the dance. Like getting to the NCAA tournament is called getting to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
The Louisville teams had a different version of the dance, and unfortunately now are ineligible. So probably bad joke on a school-run program, but nonetheless, there it is. Okay,
right.
Go ahead with your teams.
I'm enjoying watching Texas. We have them ranked as a 5 seed. I see them moving up before the bracket is set and final. I mean, that game versus Oklahoma, I know it's just one game, but that was a nail biter. I mean, they battled Oklahoma, a 1 seed, until the very last second. Mm-hmm. So I'd say Texas moves up. I think they're one of the most interesting teams to watch. And then, of course, I like watching Maryland. I think they're going to keep moving up, and hopefully, I'm hoping they get to a 1 seed because both of those teams are just they know how to play.
Okay, very good. Let's go with Daniel. A couple teams that aren't your Buckeyes that you're going to be rooting for down the stretch.
Well, I've said them all year. They lost a couple games last week. Just going to stick with it. I think Providence. And Iowa State. I think those are 2 teams that you could watch. Iowa State's ranked as a 4 seed here. George Niang, Matt Thomas, he's a dead eye from 3. And then their point guard, I can't think of his name right now, but he's a big time player.
Chris Dunn?
No, from Iowa State.
Oh, from Iowa State. Morris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, both those teams have some big-time players. They know how to play a big game. Chris Dunn, like you said, he's a baller. He's just a straight baller. And I think those are 2 teams that will be ready to come tourney time.
And Tanner, a couple teams that aren't your Boilermakers that you'll be watching for seeding purposes and maybe in the tournament.
Cole kind of already mentioned them already. Texas. Shaka Smart there running that team. They play defense now, something they didn't do with Barnes. But I'm gonna watch the USC Trojans actually. They got a big matchup there with Oregon. I know we have Oregon as a number 1 seed, but they're playing some good basketball right now. I've gotten to watch them a few times here late at night. I think that they could be a team that could come out and win the Pac-10 there, or is it Pac-12 now, and really kind of bump up from maybe a 5 seed to get that 4-3 seed and and kind of see what Oregon can do from there as well.
And my teams, you guys have mentioned Texas. I'm going to mention that as a third time. I'm a big Shaka Smart fan. Tweeted it out last night watching that game. Texas is a team I'm going to watch. I love Chris Mack as a coach at Xavier. I think that those guys guard and they play really well. It's always, the Big East is not as strong as the Big East was at one point. Still a quality conference, but is it the ACC? Can they play 6 games in a row and win a championship? And I like Miami of Florida. I like Jim Larinaga, a very nice guy. Coach Lewis and I were at a clinic once, and we rode up an elevator with him, and he was very nice and talked some basketball with us, and for a brief moment as we got off the elevator. And just a good coach, gets a lot out of his program. So Miami of Florida will be someone that I will be watching. And as we're about to wrap up, we're 5 minutes away from ESPN covering the biggest Big Ten game tonight, Michigan State at Purdue, and we'll sign off before then, but we'll go through. I want to thank everyone for joining us, but let's get your last thoughts on, we're coming up to the month of March. It's February 9th. As I misstated earlier, it was the 8th, but it really is February 9th. We are 1 month away from conference tournaments and a little bit, 5 weeks away from the NCAA tournament starting. Give me your quick 30-second thoughts about this season and what you think might be happening down the stretch. We'll go to our graduate Tanner Kripe for his final comment.
This season's kind of been an interesting one. I think you could put 30 teams and put them 1 through 30, and I think either one of them could probably make it to the Final Four at this point, which is something that I've never really seen. Last year we had Kentucky was pretty much a favorite to make the Final Four along with Wisconsin. But now, you look at the top 25 now, and you go maybe 10 or 15 teams outside of it, and you kind of wonder what team is going to be the Cinderella story that really isn't really a Cinderella story. They're a pretty good ball club. So that's kind of where I'm at with this season so far, getting ready to head into to March.
Okay, Tanner, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go to Cole. What are your quick thoughts when we're a month away?
To build off what Tanner was saying, I think it's going to be one of the better March Madnesses, because you don't have that one Kentucky team, you don't have one team with all the stars. I think it's going to come down to the teams that really know how to play basketball together. So I'm keeping my eyes on Texas and Maryland. It's not going to come down to that one team that has it all. It's gonna be a nail biter all the way through.
And Daniel, your quick thoughts on the season so far and where we're headed here in March.
Buddy Hield, he is a real deal. He's one player that I think can take over March. I think he could put Oklahoma on his back, and they could just ride him to the Sweet 16. But I see Arizona beating Oregon to win the Pac-12 conference title. That's my bold prediction.
Okay, and I think this is a year of parity. I think the question was on ESPN or something, will a number 1 seed win the tournament this year, or will a number 1 seed get to the Final Four? I think it's that kind of year where we're gonna really enjoy March Madness with the amount of upsets due to the parity. So that does it for this weekly Bracket Babbling. We'll try to get back onto a Monday night routine. So we will produce the brackets Sunday night after the last games, and you can see where your favorite team is listed. If you have questions, you can contact us on our Twitter feed at Delphi Brackets, or you can go to our webpage at delphibracketology.weebly.com. You can contact me via email, text, call me, do whatever you want. I really appreciate Tanner Kripe, our graduate. You're free to join us any Monday night if you'd like to talk hoops. Probably the best player as far as all-around player. I hate to say that. I might have some former players watching, but I'll just say one of the very best. Means a lot to me as a young person. Just fantastic. It's good to have you. And as always, our juniors on the panel, you do an outstanding job, and we'll see you tomorrow. So everybody enjoyed the game tonight. Tanner, for you, I hope you have some success. Not really, but have fun watching college hoops. We'll see you next Monday. Thank you.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yep.